Before I dive into the content of this video, I wanted to take a little time to thank everyone who has subscribed, commented, and reached out in the last few days. It's very motivating to see that the attempts that I've made at not creating a channel that is overtly entertaining or mystical, but really just giving succinct, practical, and substantial advice is well appreciated out there. So thank you very much. It really is a great motivator for me to continue doing these videos. And speaking of substance, today we're going to talk about how the spiritual practice is an attempt to break away or to end the addiction to the ego, and how uncomfortable this essentially is, and that in our typical way of doing things, we are looking for degrees of comfort and certainty that are not on offer in this path. My name is Pablo. This channel is Meditation Amsterdam. Today I want to talk about the painful business of breaking away from egoic addiction. When we begin our spiritual journey, we come across all kinds of advice, all kinds of practices, maybe even groups of people who want to welcome us into whatever modalities they are into. There's been an explosion of things on offer out there that offer to give us experiences and glimpses of what it's all about, or to liberate us. And this has created a marketplace of spiritual advice and practices and retreats or experiences that have tapped into our need to belong, our need to know what we're doing, but also have tapped into our desire to have a sense of entertainment, or this idea that spirituality is this soft, fluffy, pleasant thing that into which we unfold. And I'm here to suggest that nothing could be further from the truth. That the core of the spiritual path is one of the dissolution of the network, of the mental network and the mental orientation of the ego, to make place for awareness to be bare bones and not encumbered by this web of egoic notions that we develop as part of our normal and natural human development. Now, I think it's naive to believe that the dissolution of your very self is something that should be pleasant, comfortable, or entertaining. It isn't. It's very difficult, very uncomfortable, and very confusing. Anybody who tells you otherwise is simply not on the level to understand just what it is that we're doing here. The dissolution of the very self that you created as a way to protect yourself and carry yourself in the world cannot possibly be comfortable. And it also can't be easy. That is not to take away from the value that a lot of these practices bring. So let's take, for example, the classic popular thing that people are doing nowadays of sound bath meditation. You go to a room, you lay down with other people around you, and there's a sound bath expert who has maybe crystal bowls, for example, or other sound instruments, and they start to create this ambience in the room. You feel it penetrating your body. You may have feelings of elation. You may have feelings of connection with everybody else. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a great experience to be had. At the same time, it does nothing at eroding your egoic structures. Okay, you're going to walk out of there feeling great, having had an experience, and at the same time, a day or two or maybe half an hour later, your same hang-ups, your same limitations, your entire egoic self will reassemble exactly as it was before you entered that room, and you will have advanced not an inch forward in terms of actual cultivation and actual dissolution of your egoic structures. Okay, so when you are engaging actual dissolution of egoic structures, here's the likely things that you will experience and which might give you a hint that you're going in the right direction. Number one, you're going to feel confused. Confusion is a natural consequence of challenging your web of positionalities, concepts, opinions, and beliefs. If you are not confused, you are on the side of certainty, and certainty is the solidifying or the keeping intact your mental structures. You're also likely to feel a sense of eeriness. Eeriness is almost a sense of a kind of vacuum or a void in which everything feels to be either not quite real or kind of shrill and confronting and cold and vacuous. And that vacuum is a vacuum of meaning. Meaning is or at least the narrative meaning that we normally understand, is a function of the egoic mind. If you feel like you have a verbal or narrative meaning in your life, that is egoic in nature by definition. So this feeling of eeriness is indicating that there is an absence of mental meaning, and therefore you're going in the right direction. You're also likely to feel lonely because you don't have other people echoing your beliefs and confirming that you are part of a certain social narrative, even if it's spiritual, right? So spiritual positionality is mental and egoic as well. And therefore, it is not the right direction when it comes to liberating yourself. You're also likely to feel emotional dysregulation, and it can take the form of what you could call the name escapes me at the moment, but is this thing when you have a cognitive dissonance is the word I was looking for. So you're likely to encounter cognitive dissonance. A part of you that strongly believes one thing, a part of you that believes something else, and you can feel the friction and the conflict between those two because the egoic notions and their contradictory nature is starting to arise to the foreground of your mind. So you feel like you're being torn apart in that sense. This is a sign of actual progress. Now notice that cognitive dissonance, emotional dysregulation, confusion, eeriness, loneliness are all, I would classify them as incredibly uncomfortable. And yet these are the very signs that you are going in the right directions, because they are the very signs that your egoic structures are becoming dislodged and they are becoming more diffuse, and they are being essentially dissolved, right? So I wanted to share this video because there is a clear hunger out there for real transformation, but your ego and your self-protection mechanisms and your notions about how this should go are the very thing that are going to get in the way of the progress that you can make. So I also wanted to offer a list of these uncomfortable sensations so that you know that they are a perfectly natural part of this, and more importantly, why they are a natural part of this. They are a natural part of dissolving the ego, and that's how it feels when the ego is being dissolved. If, on the other hand, you find yourself all fluffy and entertained and confirmed, you can be almost certain that you are only solidifying into a position and that your progress has been stifled. This is not to say that your hair should be on fire the whole way through. There's something to be said about staying grounded and having not too much dysphoria and not being not feeling like you could lose it at some point or whatever. But even that at some point needs to be also let go of. So that is essentially the message of this video. I want to remind you that to the degree that you comment, share, and subscribe, other people who may also benefit from this content will also have access to it. So I invite you to do so if you appreciate the content. And as usual, I'm going to be back with more. And until then, have a good one. Cheerio, and thank you for listening.